Now, this video is more of kind of a one-to-one conversation. It is about some of the interactions that I come across in the clinic where I see how people adapt to the disease when their family member or loved one is suffering from dementia. How does the primary caregiver adapt, and how can it affect your health overall? So in other videos, especially my video with Dr. Thomas, where we talked about how should the caregivers communicate, we talk about a situation where we say there is a problem such as too much love. If you have a choice between having too much love and too little love, we would rather choose having the problem of too much love. But what does this mean? And how does it manifest? And what if you are someone who's facing this? So when individuals have memory problems, the caregivers have different ways to cope up with it, right? So some of the caregivers might need talking to their family members, their therapist, and then they also need to think about compensatory mechanisms, like how do I still make this a functional, independent, semi-independent setting for both of us to live together? And sometimes what happens is that out of too much love, the caregiver may be taking too much control. It's so strange and difficult to explain because it's done out of pure love and nothing else. But the person who has dementia can feel like they're not able to do those things or they're not good enough. And that's why my spouse has taken over most of the things. And that could set up a very strange interaction between the spouse and the person, or the daughter and the son and the person who is having dementia. Although it's done with love, and although there are different ways of doing it when your loved one is suffering, say, they're suffering with issues with taking their medications on time, they're missing their medications, sometimes it could feel like someone just came and took over everything, and now they just do it for me. And even though it's done with all good intention, the person who is suffering from memory problems, one of the very common emotions that they share is that they don't want to be a burden on anyone. And they don't want to be dependent on everyone. And there's also this fear that if I don't keep doing these things, like if I don't keep track of my medications, eventually, if you keep doing this for me, I will lose that track, right? And that's where that fear is coming from. And there are few approaches around it. I mean, the caregiver and the person who has memory problems can talk about a system, can talk about a semi-shared situation where you do a little bit of medications and someone is just watching over, or they fill the pill box and you take it and then they come and check if you've taken it or not, or some kind of system where you communicate or check with each other, depending on the level of cognitive issues, right? If you only have an issue of missing your medications once in a blue moon, then probably you're fine. But once we get into dementia stages or get into dementia, it typically is a problem and it typically needs some level of daily supervision. But then how do we do that supervision? It's just a term, right? And how do we find a sweet spot where someone who's suffering from dementia or memory problems doesn't feel like someone has taken over while they're kept safe, right? So it's a whole understanding. I would say there's not a right or wrong answer because everyone is at different stage, but understanding that your loved one might be doing this out of love, but it feels very hurt. And so I want both the caregivers and the person who's suffering from memory problems hear this, that it may seem like you both are fighting against each other, but you're against the disease, not against each other. Sometimes these misunderstandings arise because you feel like, well, they took over everything. They think that I'm good for nothing. But when you discuss with a family member, they will say, well, every time I let him do the medications, he missed 3 times in a week, and it's his blood pressure medications. I cannot let him do it. And so you see the reason there. And so we say, is there a middle ground where we can do it together in a way that someone who's having memory issues feels included and feels that they have some kind of control, agency over what they want to do while keeping them safe. So it's just kind of finding that balance. The other reason I see that this happens a lot is, say, the caregiver or the person who had to assume this role, the spouse or the child, they have a lot of things on their plates, right? So they are, say if they are a child and they have their own children and then they have their career and there's a lot of things on their plate. And so they're just trying to get through the day and get things done. So they're on their checklist and they're overwhelmed. So they don't have the time to, find a way, partner with you. They might just be like, okay, it's easier for me to do the medications, mom, let me do it. And so understanding that might have caused a problem and it's not your fault. Sometimes caregiving, we've talked about it in other videos, it stops being a one-person job, almost like more than a full-time job. So if you also have other family members, other things to take care of in case of being a child, or if you're a spouse, you might have your own healthcare problems, it can become too overwhelming. And because it's too, it's on your checklist, you might just do things going through the checklist and you may not even think about this. And you might be surprised when your loved one says things like, you took over and you don't let me do this thing, you don't let me drive, you don't let me take my medications. And understanding that it's coming from that place of just feeling like I'm going to be a burden on my family and I'm losing my own personhood and my intelligence and my own independence. That can be such a scary space. So sometimes all we need is a sit down. If you notice that there is some activity that is kind of becoming point of contention or argument every single time you do it, for example, medications, then talk to your loved one and say, okay, what is the best way we can do it? And you have to kind of bring them on the same page and say, I know you want to do your own medications, but we have the dementia diagnosis. You can also use your neurologist or your dementia specialist to talk this with your loved one if they are struggling with the concept of how come I cannot take my medications, but kind of bring them to the same page and say, okay, I would want to have some amount of understanding or knowledge of what pills do you take on maybe a weekly basis, maybe a daily basis. And I might just come and see if you've taken the pills and just kind of get away and you still do everything on your own. But have that conversation if you notice that there is something that has become a point of arguments and discussions, and we're not, instead of doing the checklist, now we kind of struggle around. Like one of the places I see this happening is medications, where family members will say, well, if she just take her medications. I don't know why every single time I give her the medication, she questions me. Why am I taking this? Why am I taking this? Why are you giving me this? So when this is happening on a daily basis, it might be helpful to sit down with your loved one and see how much can be reason, how much logic can be used, and what is the common ground. So again, too much love can sometimes be a problem, but I always say to all my families who are suffering from memory problems, as well as the people who are caring for them, that most of us are coming from a place of love, and it's just a disease that is too much. It's taking too much from us, and we are just trying our level best to fight what's happening with us. And so is our loved one who is struggling with the disease with us. And I think one of the visualization that helps us so much in the clinic is we are not fighting against each other. We are fighting against the disease. And once families think about it that way, they say, oh yes, we have gotten into these arguments and there have been some difficult times, but truly it's because of the disease. It's nothing that any one of us is doing on purpose. So again, hopefully, I really hope this was a helpful video. I'll see you back in the next video. Till then, please take care and goodbye.